Welcome to the Alaska Weather Show. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service on this Saturday, April 9th, 2022. And if you'd like additional weather information on top of what I provide in this broadcast, you can go to weather.gov/Alaska, and that'll bring up the Alaska portion. You can use this interactive map, and first you'll see the biggest one there, the continental U.S. You can click anywhere on that and get forecast watches, warnings, advisories, and so much more information. On the map this afternoon, there are frost advisories and freeze warnings for the Ohio, Tennessee Valley and portions of the southeast into the Carolinas, North Georgia. Widespread red flag warnings for fire weather, central southern plains, and winter storm watches that cover portions of southern Montana and the western Dakotas. Well, for us, we have a warm front that is entering the west side of the state. They're seeing some snow and blowing snow as a little warmer air is going to be nudging into the west central coast here as we go through tonight and early Sunday. Winter weather advisories are in effect for the far west into Sunday morning. I'll show those in just a moment. Then we have a large high pressure system that's centered over the central part of the state back through the southwest mainland, and that's going to provide generally dry weather for much of the mainland coming up here the rest of the weekend into the beginning of the week. Panhandle will see drier and cooler weather here through the rest of this weekend, though it may become a bit breezy on Monday and certainly make things feel a bit cooler despite some much welcome sunshine there in the Panhandle. Looking at the current weather advisories, we have winter weather advisories for St. Lawrence Island, the west side of the Seward Peninsula, including Teller and Wales, and that's in effect until 6 a.m. Sunday morning. And then we have winter weather advisory for snow, blowing snow, reduced visibility north of Kotzebue. That it does include the Noatak Valley on up toward Point Hope. And looking over there in the far western end of the Seward Peninsula, Teller, snow, blowing snow, some fog, 29 degrees this afternoon as that warmer air is beginning to move inland from off of the Bering Sea. Areas further south, St. Paul, beautiful clear skies this afternoon, 29, but not near the wind. And then over along and just north of the Gulf Coast there, south central, the mountains, coastal mountains, Thompson Pass, clear skies, 23 degrees this afternoon. And then finally down through the Panhandle, Petersburg is seeing the cloud cover breaking up, partly sunny, 40 degrees, and that trend will continue across much of the Panhandle as we go through the day on Sunday with drier conditions, though it will be cool even though the sun will be out, and that'll feel good. Looking at the satellite imagery, we can see a fair amount of clear skies out over the Gulf, back across areas either side of the Alaska Peninsula, and then you can see the enhanced clouds moving onshore there from Norton Sound, Seward Peninsula, and up east of Kotzebue. That's that push of a little warmer air that's creating that light snow and areas of blowing snow that are reducing visibility. That warm front will continue to work its way up into west central areas here as we go through tonight. High pressure will remain entrenched over much of the same area, as much as a 1040 high overnight into early Sunday morning, centered near and just north of the Alaska Range. And that ridge of high pressure will extend northeastward up into northwest Canada, as well as down across the southwest interior, and then swinging back out, almost horseshoeing back out southeast of Kodiak Island. Another low will be approaching the central Aleutians with some more mainly rain. That feature will lift back toward the northwest as we go into Monday and weaken a bit. Meanwhile, though, high pressure ridge still entrenched across much of the mainland, which will keep generally fair skies going. So we'll enjoy that sunshine, especially during the afternoon hours. Though again, at night this time of year, it gets chilly. We expect temperatures to be well below freezing, especially in interior areas, though some milder air will be creeping up the Yukon Valley here as we go through Sunday and Monday as a result of that initial push of being caused by that warm front. So looking at lows tonight, where there are breaks in the clouds, it'll be below freezing in parts of the Panhandle. Across the south central interior, where it's clear, easily down near zero, single digits above or below zero, especially Copper River Basin. Talkeetna 12 above, 20-ish in Anchorage, and then afternoon highs should get back up near 40. Anchorage, Kenai, 42 or so as we get to Talkeetna, and areas of the Panhandle should be mild, generally in the 40s, mid-upper 40s. And then for Monday morning, lows again could be below freezing, especially the inner channels there of the Panhandle up to the north 25, Haines, Skagway, 10 above again at Glen Allen, and 15 at Talkeetna, one of the cooler readings. And then daytime highs should get back up into the 40s, even along coastal areas and in through the interior, with maybe the exception of the Copper River Basin, where there's plenty of snow cover still up there. And looking ahead for the north, sub-zero readings along the Arctic coast, North Slope, as well as Yukon Flats toward Arctic Village, 12 below, but temperatures are going to be bumping upward, steady or slowly rising along the Seward Peninsula, mid-upper 20s. And then Sunday afternoon should be back up around or a bit above freezing there at Nome. That milder air creeping back northeastward along the Yukon River, approaching freezing there at Fairbanks. And Monday morning, lows not quite as cold there along the Arctic coast or the northeast there around Arctic Village, up to 7 below instead of 12 below. And temperatures should recover back up above freezing. Could even be looking at a 40-degree reading, if not Monday, by Tuesday there, again around Fairbanks, and generally above freezing as you go down the Yukon River. Areas of the southwest interior, we'll see lows tonight generally in the teens and lower 20s. As we extend out along the Alaska range, or along the Alaska Peninsula, temperatures will dip below freezing and then get back up around and a bit above freezing as you get out through the Aleutian chain. Temperatures Sunday afternoon, though, could get back up near 40 degrees over toward Bethel, on up toward Aniak, and places even up toward McGrath. And then on Monday morning, lows generally upper teens to low 20s across the southwest interior. Some a little colder there just on the west side of the Alaska range, and readings generally near or above freezing, extending out once we get around to, say, Sand Point and southwestward. Afternoon highs Monday afternoon should be able to recover back up generally around or even a tad above 40 across much of the southwest interior. Let that high sun angle work, or I should say that increasing sun angle. We're gaining a good 5.5 minutes or so of daylight each day in south central areas, nearly 10 minutes north of the Arctic Circle around Utqiagvik, and then there in the south, Ketchikan gaining about 4.5 minutes of daylight daily. And then looking at the temperature outlook for April 15th through the 19th, it looks like temperatures could average a bit below normal across the eastern half of the state down through the Panhandle, while averaging a bit above normal centered on the southwest, especially around Bethel. Precipitation-wise, we expect precipitation could average a bit above normal across the southern half of the mainland, especially being centered around the central Alaska range in the vicinity of Cantwell on up toward maybe Healy and Nenana. There you have it. Temperature-wise, we could see some cooler readings there, especially toward the east as we head past the mid-month along the Alcan border.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Well, it's now time for your flying weather, and if you have a flight you're thinking about here Sunday into Monday, the main weather player will be high pressure located over portions of the mainland and then kind of arcing back across the southeast through just southeast of Kodiak Island into the western Gulf, North Pacific interface. We'll see IFR conditions nudging up into the central Aleutians Sunday morning as low pressure is going to be lifting northward out of the North Pacific. Areas of IFR through the Bering Strait on up through the northwest coast along the Brooks Range. Sunday afternoon, we see widespread MVFR conditions through the Yukon Valley, Brooks Range. A lot of VFR, though, southwest, south central, and much of the Panhandle. Back further west, though, we see IFR expanding throughout the central and western Aleutians, knocking on the door of the eastern Aleutians. And by Monday morning, high pressure still in controlled center there, especially over the southwest, clear skies. A lot of VFR conditions. We do see IFR conditions parts of the Chukchi Sea and down across a good area of the Bering, including the Aleutian chain. And then Monday afternoon, we see VFR conditions throughout a good portion of the mainland, especially south central area, Alaska Range through the Panhandle. But widespread IFR conditions continue from the lower Chukchi Sea, Bering Strait, southwestward across much of the Bering Sea, including all of the Aleutian chain, on up into at least the southern portion of the Alaska Peninsula. Pass conditions on Sunday, Anaktuvuk Pass will see IFR conditions become MVFR. That'll also be the case for Adigan, IFR to MVFR. Further south and west, where skies are clear, Lake Clark, Merrill, VFR conditions there on Sunday. And Rainy Pass will see VFR conditions, though the further northwest you fly from the west entrance, you'll encounter MVFR conditions across the Yukon Valley. And Windy Pass will see VFR conditions becoming MVFR. Isabel Pass will start out with MVFR conditions giving way to VFR conditions, especially south entrance, but MVFR will tend to hold on the north side. That'll also be the case for Mentasta Pass. MVFR conditions will hold on the north side, north entrance. VFR conditions, though, anticipated to start the day, and especially south entrance southward. And we see those VFR conditions continuing across the Copper River Basin, including down through Tanita, as well as Portage Pass, Prince William Sound, northern Gulf Coast. VFR conditions anticipated eastward throughout the Panhandle, and in the north end, Chilkoot and White will see VFR conditions on Sunday with northerly outflow winds. Looking at the freezing levels, surface freezing line runs along the outer Panhandle coast through the northern Gulf, along the east side of Kodiak Island, and then cutting across the tip of the Alaska Peninsula on up into the central Bering. A little bump in the aloft freezing level, 2,000 to 4,000 feet there in the central Aleutians in response to that low pressure that'll bring some precipitation north and northwestward. The greatest threat for any considerable moderate icing will be between 4,000 and 14,000 feet there in through the central Aleutians on Sunday. And we could see some pockets of isolated icing there between 1,000 and 9,000 feet along the Brooks Range and North Slope. Upper level jet stream winds, there's a broad area of 60 to 80 knot winds, even a 90 knot northerly wind max along the Alcan border at 30,000 feet with high pressure centered aloft there Bristol Bay. And then for 9,000 feet, mid-levels the highest centered over the southwest interior. We have a clockwise circulation around that high, a broad area of 35 to 45 knot winds from the Aleutian chain curving up through eastern Russia, the Chukchi Sea, and across much of the north and eastern mainland. And finally bringing it down to 3,000 feet. High pressure centered there over the southwest interior, lower Yukon Valley, with a ridge extending southeastward, well southeast of Kodiak Island along the lower Gulf North Pacific interface, and this broad area of clockwise circulation bringing southerly winds at 3,000 feet, upwards of 50 and 60 knots along and north of the eastern Aleutians. And what this tends to do is create areas of turbulence there in the eastern Aleutians, tip of the Alaska Peninsula, surface to 3,000 feet. I wouldn't rule out some pockets of isolated severe turbulence there in the eastern Aleutians and up into at least the tip of the Alaska Peninsula. And as the circulating winds there come around the high, we see surface to 3,000 foot turbulence around St. Lawrence, and surface to 4,000 foot turbulence across areas of the West Seward Peninsula on into areas near Fairbanks, and then also outflow winds out of the north there around Yakutat. We could see some moderate turbulence, surface to 5,000 feet.
Dual polarization technology is a major upgrade to the current radar system. It allows forecasters a better idea of what's actually out there and can help keep you safe.
Current radar technology transmits and receives information in the horizontal direction, which is very limited. Dual polarization technology, in addition to the horizontal, transmits and receives vertical energy, which allows forecasters to get information about the size, shape, and phase of the precipitation. We can use that information to better determine the precipitation type to expect at your given location.
There you have it. This new technology is currently being installed in radars across the country and is already being used by National Weather Service forecasters to produce better, more accurate forecasts. Learn more here and follow us. Want to know about the future of weather radar? Well, the National Severe Storms Lab has it here with its new phased array radar. Let's check it out.
It's a non-moving radar. It has 4 faces of the antenna, each pointing in different directions. One of the big advantages is that we're seeing so far, it can sample the area around the radar in less than a minute, maybe even a half a minute. And this is 5-6 times faster than what they can do today.
NSSL is leading the development of future weather radar with this project. Learn more here and follow us. The Storm Prediction Center is one of the NOAA weather partners. They are located in the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma. Greg Carbon gives us a glimpse into what the SPC does.
Our mission is to analyze and forecast severe thunderstorms and the potential for tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds from those thunderstorms across the lower 48 states, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. One of the primary missions of the Storm Prediction Center is the issuance of severe thunderstorm and tornado watches across the country when conditions appear to be coming together to support the development of severe thunderstorms and tornadoes.
The world-class meteorologists in the Storm Prediction Center specialize in severe weather and keeping you safe. Learn more here and follow us.
The National Severe Storms Lab is working on increasing the lead time for severe weather warnings. The national average for tornado warnings is currently 13 minutes, but more notice would be helpful, especially for those in charge of moving large groups to shelter. Warn on Forecast will help forecasters issue hazardous weather warnings earlier. The project will give them more info about the chances of strong winds, large hail, and even tornadoes.
Currently, warnings are created by forecasters looking at the atmosphere outside, understanding its volatility, and then comparing that to how they see the Doppler radar presenting what's going on inside thunderstorms. Warn on Forecast is an idea where we're going to take the massive amounts of satellite, radar, and surface data and stick them all into a very high resolution prediction model. And then by producing new forecasts every 15 or 20 minutes, the forecasters hopefully will be able to use that model to produce warnings that extend out to an hour.
Before the National Weather Service can use this tool, it must be developed and tested. One big challenge will be deciding how to get the model predictions to the forecasters.
I'm going to keep this one very low. I'm just adjusting the track.
These hazardous weather prediction models are going to produce a huge amount of output. And this fire hose of data is just too much for forecasters to handle in real time quickly. So in order to help deal with that, NSSL has developed a related project called Facets. And Facets is the methodology which will enable forecasters to focus very quickly on the most important threats.
Once Warn on Forecast and Facets are proven to be reliable and effective, then forecasters will be better able to inform you of threats nearby. Learn more here and follow us.
The Hazardous Weather Test Bed is located at the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma. It is used for experiments that will allow forecasters to learn and apply new technologies.
The Hazardous Weather Test Bed is a really unique space throughout all of NOAA. And this is where the researchers and the operational folks come together in a common space to solve operational problems and to test new research tools that the research community is working on. The goal is to accelerate the transfer from research to operations of the newest tools and techniques.
People come from around the world to collaborate on this unique project.
We can bring together not only NOAA people, but also university people, faculty, researchers, private sector meteorologists, folks working in other countries in meteorology, forecasters can all come together and focus on what the problem of the day is with the forecasters.
Each spring, several experiments occur in the hazardous weather test bed. Learn more here and follow us.
What are you looking at? And what are you ignoring? Did you notice the NOAA logo in the corner? Forecasters have a lot of information in front of them too. Every second counts during severe weather, and decisions about where to focus are constantly being made. This could be even more challenging in the future. Phased array radar will produce 4 to 6 times more information than what we have now, which brings us to the question researchers are hoping to answer. Will more radar information affect forecasters' decisions?
From our past experiments, we've learned a lot about how forecasters think during the warning decision process, but we've also learned that those thought processes are very complex, and for that reason, we need a better way to be able to track forecasters' cognitive activity.
Inbounds and possibly golf ball sized hail.
An eye tracker is a piece of technology that is used to determine in real time where someone's eye gaze is located. And these eye trackers are typically video-based, which means a camera sits below a computer monitor, and with infrared light and vector analysis, we can determine where a person is looking and how their eyes are moving.
Eye tracking is already being used in the medical field and air traffic control. Using similar research methods, NSSL is discovering the benefit for weather forecasting too. Phased array radar will give forecasters a lot more to think about. Understanding their decision-making process will help researchers develop even more user-friendly tools. So what's the benefit for you? Even better weather warnings. To learn more, check us out online and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Well, we'll wrap up our show with the sea ice edge and the marine weather. And looking at the western southwest coast, we continue to see the ice is still down there around St. Paul, St. George, the Pribilof Islands, though it is breaking up more off of the southwest coast, off of the lower portion there of the Kuskokwim Delta and south of Nunavik Island. And we'll continue to see that trend as we go through the weekend into early next week. As far as winds across the inner channels of the Panhandle on Sunday, we'll see offshore flow out of the northeast, generally speaking, as high as 30 knots down the length of Lynn Canal with waves there 5-6 feet. Less so down toward Ketchikan and Metlakatla, northwesterly 10 knots. And then offshore flow along the Gulf Coast, Yakutat down south through Sitka and Craig, generally out of the northeast and north, 20 to 25 knots and waves 6 to 7 feet. Monday will be a breezier day. The inner channels could see 35-knot winds from the north through Lynn Canal. Northeasterly winds 30 knots between Juneau, St. Petersburg, and then down along the outer Gulf Coast, Gustavus south through Sitka and off of Craig, 30 to 35-knot north to northeast winds and waves anywhere from 10 to about 13 feet. Across the northwest Gulf Coast, winds will be out of the north as high as 25 knots with gusts to 45 knots there south of Cordova, with some gap winds enhancing the flow there. Northwest winds 15 knots, Prince William Sound, waves a few feet, and then generally north winds around 20 knots, lower Cook Inland there at the entrance, and waves 4 feet. On Monday, winds will be northerly, Prince William Sound, 15 knots, waves a couple of feet there. Lower Cook Inlet, northeast winds 20 knots, waves 5 feet. And northeast winds 15 to 20 knots offshore the Kenai, waves over the northwest Gulf 6-7 feet. In the vicinity of Kodiak Island, look for generally north winds around 15 knots on Sunday, waves 3 feet, Shelikof Strait. Easterly winds, though, as we go down toward the end of the Alaska Peninsula, east winds to 30 knots, waves 10 feet south of Sand Point, 5 feet north of Cold Bay. And then on Monday, look for northeasterly winds to 25 knots through Shelikof Strait with waves about 4 feet there. And again, easterly winds, east-southeast winds south of Sand Point and north of Cold Bay, waves 12 feet on the North Pacific side, 6 feet or so north of Cold Bay on the Bering side. Low pressure will be passing south or approaching from the south, the central Aleutians on Sunday. and look for 35 to 40 knot gales, generally out of the east across the central and eastern Aleutians on Sunday. Waves 16 to 19 feet on the North Pacific side and 10 to 16 feet on the Bering side. On Monday, winds will be more southeast to southerly, anywhere from 25 to as high as 35 knots just north of Unalaska Dutch Harbor area. And waves 12, 13 feet on the North Pacific side, 9 to 10 feet on the Bering side. Ice remains down around and east of St. Paul, St. George. We'll see easterly winds as high as 30 knots there east of St. Paul. And generally, winds will be turning more toward the south and southwest as you get north of Nunavik Island. 15-knot winds into Norton Bay with the ice in place. By Monday, winds turn easterly through Norton Sound and south of St. Lawrence, 15 to 20 knots, and then more southeasterly, picking up 25 to 30 knots as you get down towards St. Paul and St. George. Along the Arctic coast, winds will generally be out of the east at 15 knots, and as we get into the vicinity to where that warm front boundary is washing out, we'll see winds turn southwesterly to 25 knots through the lower Chukchi Sea, especially south of Point Lay and down through the Bering Strait. And on Monday, winds will generally be in the 15 to 20 knot range out of the west there along the Arctic coast, and generally from the south-southeast through the lower Chukchi Sea at 15 knots, and easterly winds off the Seward Peninsula there just south of the Bering Strait on the north side of St. Lawrence Island. And late tonight into early Sunday morning, high pressure will be centered near the central Alaska range, 1045 high in place. We'll have some snow, blowing snow still in portions of the Seward Peninsula and north of Kotzebue, especially up toward areas of Noatak and Point Lay. Winter weather advisories remain in effect until at least mid-morning on Sunday. And then looking at the areas out for the day on Sunday, high pressure will remain entrenched across the center part of the state. That'll be the case into Monday with low pressure out through the western and central Aleutians. So have a good night, and thank you for watching our show.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.